Good morning, all of you. Welcome back to the next class of history. And I think you all are getting the classes very nicely and doing your works sincerely. Okay, go ahead with the same approach, and we are moving to the next topic, which means the next part of our last topic. It was about the outbreak of French Revolution, right? And we have learned related to the outbreak of French Revolution many matters. Okay. The last class we concluded with a matter. It was the common people, they started to react massively towards this dictatorship administration or the despotic administrative system or strategy followed by Louis XVI, right? And there was scarcity for food, and people were desperately wanted some amount of food because their staple food was bread, and the availability of bread was reducing or decreasing in French society, and the price of the product, the price of this commodity has increased in an alarming rate. So they waited for a long, but they could not find that changes in the price of bread and changes in the system which were practicing at that time in France. So they started reaction and they attacked Bastille prison and took all the materials and sold in the market and all those things we learned, and they attacked the shops where these food grains were hoarded, okay, secretly kept, and the hoarded commodities were taken out and it was shared among the common people who had faced scarcity for getting food. Okay, so the problem became intensified. The problems between the Louis XVI and the common people intensified, and the intense feel of nation state, the intense feel of independence derived in the minds of the common people when the thinkers like Rousseau, Montesquieu, John Locke had given their basic ideologies towards the common people and gave some kind of motivation to them. Okay. And now we are moving to the sixth paragraph under the outbreak of French Revolution days. Okay, are you ready? So we are moving to the first. Mainly 3 points are included. Mainly 3 points you need to be remembered from that sixth paragraph. One is manor dues, another one is chat tax, another one is nobles fled. So I have rectified the size of the points and the paragraph I have reduced into 3 points. So when you listen me, you can easily identify what is being given in that paragraph number 6. Okay. So now the common people started reaction and they spoiled that Bastille prison, which means demolished the Bastille prison. And they took the hoarded commodities from the shops and equally shared to the people who desperately wanted those materials. And the common people, they were paying different types of taxes to this first estate and second estates, right? First tax was tithe. Tithe was one example of a tax paid by the common people towards the clergy. And taille was one another tax paid by the common people. Rather than these two famous taxes, they paid different types of taxes to these church people, nobles and other categories of people in the French society, my dears. Which means in short we can say that the common people, their sound portion of production was given as tax to these so-called idiotic categories. Okay. So those who failed to pay the taxes, the workers or the common people who failed to pay the taxes, their names and how much tax they wanted to pay as to the ruler or the clergy, or how much tax they wanted to pay to the nobles, these all were recorded very nicely. Okay, that is, manure documents were kept. Clergy and nobles, they kept manure documents that person A from common category should have to pay this much amount that he had not paid in this month. By telling all those, they kept a proper record, and based on that record, who has not paid the tax, they would have to pay extra amount as interest. So such manner documents were kept by these clergy and nobles, my dears. When people were reactive, they started to attack the buildings and the government buildings. Or under Louis XVI, there were many administrative offices. In these offices, these so-called records were kept. And these records were taken by the common people and set into fire. Look at that. They set into fire. All the documents had missed, which means a person from the common category, how much amount he made as due will not be collected or recollected by the clergy or the nobles. So people had taken all these and set into fire. That is manure dues. Manure dues were there from the side of the common people, and those manure dues were the documents which kept, or the records which were kept by the clergy and nobles for getting the tax from these common people had been set into fire by the common. So which means that was a reaction. Okay, that means a reaction. Another one is Chattex. Okay, what do I mean by Chattex? Have you heard this term Chattex? Chattex means from that French society, the entire changes had been created by the common people. Entirely, some changes had been taken place. Entirely some changes, which means the existing system had completely changed by the common people. Another one is nobles fled. When common people decided to attack and collect these manual records and all these things, they were in the mood of bringing back a democratic system in France. Okay, so when common people reacted, that resulted the nobles and the clergy, they also tried their maximum to suppress these common people. But they could not succeed over these common people. Who could not succeed over the common people? These so-called nobles and clergy could not succeed over the common people, my dears. As a result of that, nobles were running away from France. They fled to the other nations, neighboring states or neighboring countries of France. People had migrated, which means nobles. We have to remember that nobles were having such a capacity to live in the French society. When these common people started their agitation, it was not suppressed by the nobles and these clergy. So clergy and nobles were running away from France with their life, and common people started to have the powers. And see paragraph number 7. We are moving to paragraph number 7. Okay. Then paragraph number 7, Louis XVI accepted constitution, and the constitution was developed in 1971. Okay. See, now the common people had attained maximum capacity to react against their masters. Who is the master here? Louis XVI is the master, and the supporting members were the categories who had spoiled the life of the common people, dears. Okay, so when constitution was set by the common people, when they met at Versailles tennis court, they set a constitution. The common people had set a constitution for France. As per that constitution, they tried maximum to reduce the power of monarch. They tried maximum to control the rights of these nobles and clergy, what they had attained by birth. They had their own privileges by birth. So privileges by birth completely cancelled the new constitution set by the common people or the third estate people of France. Louis XVI had no other ways, my dears. Louis XVI had played maximum his skills to control these common people, but he could not make a dominating success over these common people as he had a few years back. When he tried to control these common people, when the reactions became intensive in France, from the side of the common people. Louis XVI, nobles, clergy, whatever categories who dominated the French society, they tried their maximum, but they could not succeed over these common people. Still, I would like to tell you one thing. I told you, if that 90,000 people or 90% of the people in the French society belonged in the common category, if they all sneeze together, these so-called 10% would be easily eradicated from France, easily evicted from France. But these 90% of people had no such voice or had no such capacity to react against the masters, and now they had attained that reactive capacity. Okay, the common people had the reactive capacity. They constituted a constitution. Louis XVI was asked that you can be here in France. We are not going to kill you. We are not going to kill you. The risk, the activities that you have done against us should give you back the death, but we are not going to kill you. You can be here in France as a person, as a citizen, but you won't have the right what you had earlier as per the constitution. So Louis XVI, he accepted that, yes, I will be here in the country. I don't want power. Please don't kill me. Who said it? Louis XVI. Okay, Louis XVI said that I won't be making any kind of difficulties for the common people of France. I had done many wrong things for the common people. Please don't kill me. Now the common people had rise up, and now the common people had reached the apex level than the Louis XVI or the masters of the French society. So Louis XVI accepted the constitution. So constitution was giving complete right for the people, not to the ruler. Okay, and in 4th August 1789, my dears, they abolished the feudal system. So in France, there was a social system, and that social system so-called as feudal system. Feudal system, as per the feudal system, Louis XVI was sitting on the top or the apex level. And then the feudal system, under that clergy were there, then nobles were there, then the other categories of people were there, right? These all abolished, which means feudal categorization, feudal strategies of administrating a country had completely abolished in France. 4th August 1789, feudal system abolished. And then take a look at this, titres were abolished. The taxes paid by the common people towards the ruler abolished by the newly formed constitution. So the newly formed constitution had given more concentration for the upliftment of the common people, my dears. They abolished the feudal system which was familiar in French society, and the constitution forced the ruler Louis XVI to be there in the country by following the instructions and regulations of constitution passed in 1971. Okay, then take a look at this. Titres were abolished. Titres were abolished. The tax was abolished. Which tax was abolished? Which tax was abolished? Which tax was abolished? The tax which paid by the common people to the masters had abolished. Okay, and see, we are moving. So under outbreak of French Revolution, 7 paragraphs were there, and 2 paragraphs we have discussed today, and another parts, 5 paragraphs we have already discussed in the previous video classes. And now we are moving to another section of our chapter, that is France becomes constitutional monarchy. France was not going to be a democratic country. So here you want to understand, for a long years, for a long period of time, a country which is ruling by a dictator or a monarch, people, even if those administrations were struggleful for them or mysterious for them or miserable for them, Suddenly, if people need to change from an existing system to a new system, that is democracy, every categories of people, especially the common people, were illiterate and they had no idea about what is democracy and what were the ideologies of democracy and what would be happened if a country which is setting a new system of administration, that is democracy. So the newly formed constitution, they had given a new set of administrative style in France. It was called constitutional monarchy. Constitutional monarchy means a monarch will be there, a single ruler will be there, but he or she will be acting as per the instructions set by the constitutions. Did you get me? Constitutional monarchy means a monarch will be, of course, there in the country for leading that. At the same time, that monarch cannot take an independent decision. He or she should have to take the decisions only as per the instructions and regulations given by the constitution. Here in France, the constitution have been set by the common people. So, of course, the rules and regulations which involved in that constitution will be familiar and will be beneficiary for the common people. And the ruler who had attained maximum capacity of administrative strategy when he was a dictator, he has to change, he has to reduce the powers what he had enjoyed. Suddenly, Louis XVI was changed into a constitutional monarch. Constitutional monarch means Louis XVI cannot take an independent decision in France. He had taken an independent decision. It was improving tax in 1789. That was the root cause of the outbreak of this French Revolution. I think you are remembering all those facts, right? So at that time he could decide what he wanted. But when constitution set by the common people, it was not under the control of a ruler to take an independent decision. The ruler, he or she, has to discuss with the other members of the society, plus the constitutional provisions too have to be kept under the planning. Okay, so that is what France becomes constitutional monarchy. So France become constitutional monarchy. Under that, the first paragraph, powers shared between judiciary, executive and legislature. Powers must be shared. Actually, what was the administrative strategy used by this despotic ruler Louis XVI till 1789? There were no power sharing. What do you mean by power sharing? Power sharing means power should not be vested only in a few hands. If power, rights and betterment and everything is being vested over a single person, he will definitely dominate the rest of the categories in that society. No doubt at all. Okay. So Louis XVI had maintained these kind of strategy, these kind of ideologies for ruling the people of France. But after setting the constitution, when France has changed into a constitutional monarchy, they started sharing powers between judiciary, executive and legislature. So judiciary means people who are doing some kind of crimes, people if they are misbehaving against the policies and programs of the government, will be giving some kind of punishment based on the constitutional provisions. Earlier, this so-called judiciary means practicing the law and order in a country. Judiciary in the sense practicing law and order or maintaining law and order in a country. That is judiciary. Executive means the administrative categories. Legislature means the group of people who have been selected into the executive. The group of people who are being selected by the people for running a government can be called as legislature. So as per the new constitution set by the common people in France, they guaranteed that power should not be vested with a single person. Power must be shared between judiciary, power must be shared between executive, and power must be shared between legislature, so that people would be attaining at least a basic standard for their life. Take an example of India. We have a government, we also have this judiciary, executive and legislature. Okay. So Indian judicial system, you might have learned from grade 8 politics. It has been divided into 3 stratas. One is Supreme Court, then State High Court, then low courts or district courts. Is it? And courts and courts related matters, government cannot interfere in the matters of judiciary, and government cannot interfere in the matters of legislature, and legislature cannot interfere in the matters of the so-called, which means each and every categories are having their own independence. But at the same time, people have the complete right to interfere in legislature, executive and judiciary. Okay, if I have been caught for a criminal case and that case will be reached in the lower court at first, from there if I am not getting the justice what I expected, I can go to the next level, that is state level, and from there also if I am not getting the correct expected outcome, I can definitely go to the Supreme Court. Of course, from the Supreme Court I will be getting the justice what I expected. So this is the benefit as a citizen living under a democracy experiencing. But in France, those kind of systems were not practiced till the constitutional monarchy was set. When constitutional monarchy was set in France, they shared powers between the so-called judiciary, executive and legislature, my dears. And then, when these all changes were made, remember, France was under a monarchy system, and now it has changed into constitutional monarchy. So people were expecting much from this newly formed constitution and newly forming government in France. So you try to understand the situation now. For a long period of time, the common people of France were not enjoying any fruitful aspects in their life, and now they are going to experience something. Of course, the people will have some kind of desires or wishes or expectations. Now people are expecting what will be the next for them. What are the benefits that they are going to get? But the newly formed constitution did not give political rights for everyone. Here, 2 categories of citizens were created in the French society after setting the constitutional monarchy. After setting the constitutional monarchy, French group or French population divided into 2. One is passive citizen, another one is active citizen. Active citizens means people who were capable to pay a better amount of tax to the government, they would be able to give their votes to the government. As you know that in India, if there is an election, based on the economic status of an individual, he or she will not be selected for casting the votes. Irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their color, irrespective of their financial background, irrespective of their food habits, irrespective of their all grounds, Indian citizens can cast their votes to select the new government. These kind of rights were not received by the people of France after setting a constitutional monarchy, my dears. People had wished that we are going to set a new government so that every people should get the right of casting votes. People had the wish. But the new constitution which set in the French society and that had divided the population of French into two, passive and active. Passive means the citizens who were not paying a great amount of tax to the ruler or to the monarch. He or she won't be able to cast their votes. Active citizen means the citizens who are paying a reasonable amount of tax to the government. They would be getting the right of casting their votes. And women were completely excluded from casting votes. Only men, and all the men were not able to cast their votes. All the men again categorized. Those who were paying a reasonable amount of tax to the government would be able to cast the votes, and those who were not able to give such a reasonable amount of tax, they would be excluding from the casting rights. Women were completely excluded. So you please try to understand the situation. For a long time they struggled, and after that now they got a government for their own, and that constitution too set in that country. It should definitely give at least a chance to the common people to cast the vote, and there also the division had taken place, which means women had completely excluded from the political rights, and at the same time men were not allowed to cast their votes. Men were divided into two categories as passive and active. So active means the group of men who were capable enough to pay a reasonable amount of tax to the government. They were able to cast their vote. At the same time, passive citizens means they were not able to pay such a reasonable amount of tax to the ruler, so they were excluded from casting their votes. So this kind of system actually did not expect by the common people of France. They expected much, but they did not get up to the level of their expectation. Okay, so by this we are concluding today's class, and read the textbook very carefully, and your works and everything will be reaching you through Google Classroom. And remember, you are in 9th standard, and take that responsibility always with you. And after listening this video class, you are just writing the notes, or a few questions are given by us, and doing that you are doing some other activities. Rather than that, you read the textbook up to what we discussed, those area you read very clearly. Otherwise you are going to face a big challenge in your life. Okay, so I'm not threatening any one of you. Do your work sincerely, and your approach towards your study must be changed. Okay, because again and again the situations are getting worse, so that the worst situation can be changed as a fruitful situation by you, dear children, by reading the textbook and understanding the topics very well and doing the work sincerely. Okay, so this is enough for today. Till the next class, you continue your reading and follow the works very nicely and do sincerely. Okay, and I am sure that you would be doing all the works very nicely and delightfully, and give a big respect to your parents that they are offering everything for you. So consider that and do your works sincerely. Okay, so we will be meeting you in the next class. Thank you.